Hi everyone, this is Jim Tolles, and today I wanted to talk about the many flavors of love. And I like this particular topic because I think love gets put into this very, very narrow idea. And the narrow idea, of course, is the romantic and sexual thing. That any type of love is really, really focused, or at least most of it. And the other things that come in are like family love. And so those are kind of the main ideas of what love is. And I speak of love very broadly. So, especially when I'm speaking from that space of higher truth, the truth of oneness, that everything is love. We're not talking about just a romantic sexual thing, because obviously that's not what's happening in most of the world all the time. And we're obviously not talking about, the family love, which is a distinctive flavor of it. But rather, if all of the world is ice cream, there are many flavors of ice cream. There's many types that we can enjoy, and some we don't enjoy as much, but we accept that they're there. And so sadness can be a flavor of love when we bring that intention to it. That intention, that awareness to be with it, to allow it, to let it flow and go its course. So the sadness I think of as like grieving someone you care for. There's a passing. So what is love here? I mean, this is a wonderful question to make part of your practices. What is love here? When somebody's yelling at you, what is love here? How do you be present to this? And love there may be expressing yourself, say this is not appropriate boundary, that you're stepping over. This is not appropriate for you to yell at me, right? So that can be an expression of love. So you can already see as I'm talking about this, the greater breadth and diversity of what love is. It always comes from a place of acceptance. In my video, what I called What is Love? I tell you that love is acceptance. It's complete and total acceptance of what is. And so there's no resistance in it. The converse is hatred and dislike, where we're rejecting things. We're saying, I don't want this in my life. But while we set appropriate boundaries, because we understand what's healthy for us, we don't say that something should or should not exist. We don't say this isn't true or right or something quite like that. Not in the ways that the ego does, where the ego rejects all these things. If there's a war going on, we accept that there's a war. That's love in action. So we accept that there's this war that's happening. Now, what love does from that space of acceptance is it can be varied. You can't really say it's going to be this, that, or the other thing, because love is very dynamic. And what it may call us to do in the face of something that's very tragic like war can vary depending on what's going on, because there is a huge consciousness out there that is growing and shifting in ways that we can't possibly know. It is that kind of sense that there's a greater plan, although I use plan loosely because I don't see life in that sort of fatalistic way. I see there's a lot of possibilities, with some things more likely than others, depending on where we take things, where we flow. And so in your own practice, with all the things that go on in daily life, bring that question to your mind. It's like, what is love here? What does that mean? How can I enjoy this flavor? What does enjoyment of this flavor mean? Going back to that metaphor of grief, it's like there's a sweetness to grief, to letting go. It's not necessarily a sweetness that we want to have on a regular basis, right? And that's the ego preference. It's okay to still have those preferences, to not want to be grieving lost loved ones all the time. But in releasing it, there is that space that we make in our heart to move on, to continue to grow. And that is that space of love, because we're not holding on, we're not getting trapped in the emotion. We continue to grow, we continue to flow through life. Same thing if anger arises. And I'm focusing on some of what people will call the negative emotions, because those are usually the ones that we don't associate with love. It's easy to associate things that feel pleasurable with love, although some things that feel pleasurable aren't really coming from that deeper space. They're coming from a place of avoidance. So people treat a lot of substances. They go out and they do all these different substances to make themselves feel good or to numb themselves. And this is actually a form of self-hatred. I mean, that's what alcohol is in many respects, because people don't go to it because they're happy. Always think about that with whatever substances that you may get hooked into, including something that, seems benign like sugar, which is actually causing a lot of problems, health problems for people. See why you go to it. Are you going because, generally this is something you want, or are you going to make yourself feel better? If you don't feel good now, why don't you feel good now? Come into deeper acceptance of the feelings you feel now. And the wonderful part that I have found is as you accept more and more of life as it is and more of these different emotions and feelings, you're going to find more space for depth of intimacy. And intimacy, like I use that term broadly as well, because it's not just the sexual romantic thing, which is usually what everybody's like, so if I do all this other stuff, will I get even better sex or something like that? And it's like, well, probably. But on top of that, there's a depth and intimacy in friendships, in business partnerships, in working with coworkers, just by being more fully in that space of love within you. You'll notice that people will want to be around you because you're not fighting things inside yourself and fighting the way life is. There's a lot more peace and tranquility, and so many people are yearning for this. This can bring up other situations with setting appropriate boundaries so people don't start leeching off of you, but that's a topic for another time. So these are just some thoughts for you today to play with, and really that one question of what is love here in any situation, whether it's a difficult boardroom meeting or whether you're just sitting out by a lake, I think can help keep bringing you back to that awareness that everything is love, that it's always shifting and changing and asking something slightly different of you, but at the same point it simply is, and you simply are. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you want to keep up with me, I am on Facebook. If you search on Spiritual Awakening Process, and of course spiritualawakeningprocess.com is my blog. Thanks and have a beautiful day.